Okay, we are on page 54 in your packet, and we are using square roots to solve quadratic equations, which is lesson 10.4. Okay, so as you might recall, the equation, or you should recall, the equation for quadratic equations is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, and now we are talking about solving using square roots. So here you see ax squared minus c equals 0. And what you notice about this is that there's no b term. Okay. And when we have this kind of format, the objective is to get the a term, i.e. the ax squared term, isolated. Okay, isolated meaning by itself and solve. So note, this method only works for quadratic equations with no linear term. Okay, or it's the no b term. That's what we call the linear term, that middle term. Okay, and so if you have ax squared minus c equals 0, okay, you're going to move your c over. So you're going to add c to both sides. You're going to get ax squared equals c. Then we divide by a, okay? And that's going to give us x squared. We're going to get the d, which is c over a, okay? And this next thing, number of solutions, this will all become clear in a moment when we do examples, but I would memorize this if I were you. Okay, if d is greater than 0, then we're going to have 2 solutions. Okay, if d equals 0, we're going to have 1 solution. And if d is less than 0, we're going to have no solutions. Okay, and we'll see how this plays out in a minute. Let's see the steps to solving using square roots. We are going to isolate the a term. Okay, that's our first step, like we did up here. We isolate the a term. We take the square root of each side of the equal sign on each side. Okay, so each side we take the square root. Remember the positive root and the negative root. Okay, and again, the solution is positive and negative. Okay, so let's look at example 1 here. We have this right here. We are missing the b term, so we're going to go ahead, excuse me, and isolate that variable. We're going to add 32 to both sides. We get 2z squared equals 32. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. I get z squared equals, and now here this is important, we're going to get 16. When you take the square root of both sides, there's 2 answers, right? There could be a positive or a negative. So you're going to always, when you take the square root of something, you're going to have a positive or a negative answer, okay? And in this case, we get z equals positive or negative 4, and it must be in this form, okay? And again, that's because 4 times 4 is 16, and negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. That's why we have both the positive and the negative, okay? Turning to the next page, page 55. We are on, it's hard to see, sorry about that. We're on example 2. 9r squared minus 35 equals 14. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add 35 to both sides. We get 9r squared equals, what is that, 49? Okay, we are going to divide by 9. Again, this works because we have no b term. We get r squared equals 49 over 9. Okay, I'm going to take the square root of that. Square root. And remember, when we take the square root, we get both a positive and a negative answer. Let's move this a little so we can actually see it. There, that's better. And we're going to get r equals positive or negative. The square root of 49 is 7. The square root of 9 is 3. Okay, and we're going to turn that into a mixed number. Positive or negative, 2 and 1/3. Okay, so far so good. Not too bad. Okay, let's look over here at number 13. We are going to isolate that x, so we're going to subtract 14. Okay, we get negative x squared equals 3. You have a negative here, so we have to divide by a negative 1 to get rid of that. You're going to get x squared equals 3. Okay, we're going to take the square root. Oopsie, that's a negative 3. Sorry about that. You're going to take the square root of both sides. When you do that, you see a negative 3. And we know that no number times itself equals a negative. Okay, so no number, that's hard to see, times itself equals a negative. So what we say, and here's our answer, is no real solution. Okay, now there are such things as imaginary numbers, but we're not talking about that right now. So when you have a number under a square root sign, you're going to say no real solution. Okay, number 4. Need to isolate that m squared, or the m I should say. We are going to subtract 8 from both sides. We get 45, right? Equals 9m squared. We're going to divide both sides by 9. We get, let's just move this around, say m squared equals 5. Okay, and then we're taking the square root. Okay, so when we take the square root, you know you're going to have a positive and a negative answer. Okay, now, in this case, we're going to get 4 answers, actually. Okay, we're going to have our exact answers, and we're going to have our approximate answers. Okay, our exact answer is just what we said it is. M equals positive or negative square root of 5. Okay, there's my exact answer. Now, for my approximate, this is where your calculators will come in handy. I would pause the video if you don't have your calculator and make sure you have it with you. It's going to be important. Okay, so we take the square root of 5 and we'll round it to 2 places. So we're going to get m equals, and we're going to use the approximate sign. That is 2.24. And we have a positive or a negative. So 2.24 is our approximate answer. Okay, and that's why I said we have technically 4 ways of writing that. Okay, let's go on to problem number 5. Okay, on this one, we are not going to distribute that 3. Okay, there's no reason to. We're going to go ahead and we're just going to right away divide by 3. Okay, we get x plus 14 squared equals 7. Okay, whenever we have a square, we have to take the square root to get rid of it. Okay, and again, we are going to have a positive and a negative. So I'm going to put that right there, a positive and a negative. We get x plus 14 equals positive or negative square root of 7. Okay, now I have to deal with this 14 to get the x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 14 from both sides. I get x equals. Okay, and we are going to get negative 14 plus or minus the square root of 7. Now this, my friends, is the exact answer. Okay, we can circle that and leave that as 2 answers. And then we're going to need our calculators because we also need our approximate answer. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the square root of 7, which should be just over 2.5. So that's 2.65, we'll say. So we're going to have, see if we can see it here, negative 14 plus 2.65. We'll just round to 2 places, and negative 14 minus 2.65. Okay, so we're going to say x equals approximately. We can do the easy one first. Negative 14 minus 2.65 is going to be negative 16.65. Okay, and then I'm going to put this one on my calculator. Negative 14 plus 2.65 is going to give me negative 11.35. Okay, or x equals approximately, did I do that right? Yeah, negative 11.35. So there are our approximates, and there's our exact. Okay, let's go ahead and let's flip to page 56. Okay, so this is bad. They're all kind of the same. If you want to stop the video and try one, you can. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do number 6. Okay, we have this 3 halves out here. So to get rid of that 3 halves, we need to multiply by what? 2/3. Okay, that's going to give me n plus 1 quantity squared. You can do it in your head if you want, or we can do times 2/3. It's going to give me 22, so equals 22. Okay, now I need to get rid of that squared, so I'm going to take the square root. I get plus or minus, we get n plus 1 equals positive or negative square root of 22. Okay, now in this case, we've got to subtract that 1 from both sides. We get n equals negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 22. Okay, this is going to be my exact. Okay, there's my exact answer. Now I want an approx. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the square root. Let's see, second square root. 22 is going to give me about, let's see, -1 plus or minus 4.69. Okay, so that's going to give me two answers. N equals approximately, well, that one's going to be -5.69 is one answer. And N equals approximately, we're going to take -1 plus 4.69. What is that, 3.69? Okay, so there are my four answers. Okay, let's go over and do, so this one's a little tricky, so pay attention, okay? Number 20, we are going to go ahead and we are going to subtract 20 from both sides. We get -x squared equals -12. Divide by that -1. We get x squared equals a +12. And I'm going to take the square root, positive and negative. Okay, we get x equals positive or negative square root of 12. Now, hopefully some of you can see this right away. We have a perfect square in there that we can pull out, okay? If you go ahead and rewrite this as positive or negative, 4 times 3, right? 4 times 3 equals 12. That 4 is a perfect square. We know that the square root of 4 is 2, so I can pull out a 2. And I'm left with the square root of 3. So I want you always to make sure this is in simplest form. If there's a perfect square inside that you can eliminate, you need to pull that out, okay? So there's my exact. Now we need our approx, okay? We are going to take plus or minus, and we're going to take 2 times the square root of 3, so 2 times square root of 3, and we should get approximately 3.46. So we have, let's make that x equals approximately positive or negative, what did I say? 3.46, okay? So make sure that when you have that perfect square, you pull it out, okay? Let's look at number 9. M squared minus 18 equals -18. I'm going to add 18 to both sides. M squared equals, what is that, 0? Take the square root. You know that the square root of 0 is just going to be 0. There's not a positive or a negative. We have one answer. Okay, so moving right along, we're kind of in the home stretch here. We're at about the 12.5-minute mark, and we are going to do number 10. I think you guys are going to like this one because when we subtract 12 from both sides, we get what? -7? And what we see on that page prior. Can we have the square root of a negative number? There's no number times itself that equals a negative. So you are going to have no real solution. Okay? And just one more thing on this one up here. Just make sure that you always look at the answer and see if you can pull out a perfect square, okay? Because that's what we did right here. We pulled out a perfect square. Okay? Let's go on to page 57, moving right along. Let's see how much we have left here. Oh, we're in the home stretch. Okay, excellent. What do we have here? X minus 4 over 5 squared equals the square root, or equals 36, okay? So we would know right away that we have a squared, so we are going to take, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it. I'm going to take the square root, both of these, and when we take the square root, we have a positive and a negative, okay? So we know that that's x minus 4 over 5, and we have positive or negative. The square root of 36 is 6, okay? Now that we've gotten rid of that squared, we have to deal with this, and we have a 5 in the denominator, so I can multiply by 5 to cancel out or blast out that 5. I'm going to get x minus 4 equals, that's going to be plus or minus 30, okay? And then I'm going to add 4 to both sides, okay? I get x equals 4 plus or minus 30. So I've got 4 plus 30, and I've got 4 minus 30. So we're going to have x equals what, 34? And x equals -26. And I always put them in ascending order. So we're going to say x equals -26, comma, x equals 34. That's my final answer. Okay, that was the one, that was that one up there. Looking at 12. Okay, I can see that that's squared. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to take the square root right away. Square root here, square root here. Make sure you don't forget your plus or minus. Okay, we get 16x squared minus 8 equals positive or negative 9. Okay, now, oh, this one's tricky. Now we're going to add 8 to both sides. 16x squared equals 8 plus or minus 9. Okay, I am going to divide by 16, I guess. I get x squared equals, what do we have here? 8/16 plus or plus 9/16, or you have x squared equals 8/16 minus 9/16. Okay, you see those as the two answers there? I'm going to go ahead, and then we have to take the square root. So I'm going to go ahead and let you get the answer. Okay, and we'll check in class. I think that's a nice problem, and we will actually look at that one in class. Please remind me tomorrow. Okay, let's look at 13. Let's see. You guys should know by now that we are going to divide by 6 first. Okay, so we're going to get x minus 2 squared equals, let's see, what's 150 divided by 6? I think that's 25. We're going to take the square root, and that's plus or minus the square root. So we get x minus 2 equals positive or negative 5. Okay, we're going to add 2 to both sides. I'm going to get x equals 2 plus or minus 5. 2 plus 5 is 7. 2 minus 5 is negative 3. So I get x equals negative 3. X equals 7. That was a pretty easy one. Okay, we're in the home stretch. We're almost done. Okay, if you look at this one, number 14, we are going to divide by 4. X minus 3 quantity squared equals, what is that, 7. Okay, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. That's a positive or a negative. X minus 3 equals positive or negative square root of 7. This is one of those answers where I'm going to get an exact and an approx. Okay, we get x equals 3 plus or minus the square root of 7. Okay, there's my exact. Now we're going to do our approximate, where you're going to need your calculator again. Okay, so x equals approximately, let's see what we get. We're going to have, let's see what the square root should be, just over 2.5, right? I think we did this one already. I think it's 2.65. Okay, so that's going to be 3 plus 2.65 and 3 minus 2.65. So we're going to get, let's see, what's 3 minus 2.65? Oh, that's 0.35, right? Yeah. X equals 0.35. And then that's the easy one. That's going to be x equals approximately 5.65. Okay, and there's our approx answers. Okay, last page and we're done. Let's see what we got here. 2 more problems. I am going to, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here. Go ahead and I'm going to divide by 3 on this one. Negative 3, I apologize. X plus 5 equals 20. Okay, this is a good one. I'm doing this one for a reason. We are going to take, oopsie, that's squared. Okay, we're going to take the square root. Square root, that's positive or negative. I get x plus 5 equals the positive or negative square root of 20. Okay, I'm going to minus 5 from both sides. X equals negative 5 plus or minus square root of 20. And hopefully you see that this is one that you can pull out a perfect square. So we're actually going to simplify this. Plus or minus, that's 4 times 5. So 4 is my perfect square. X equals negative 5 plus or minus, the square root of 4 is 2. 2 root 5. Okay, and there you have your exact answer. Okay, right here. And then I want you to find my approximate, okay? You find. Okay, and then why don't you do this? You do this, okay? And then finally, a recap of the methods we've learned so far to solve quadratic equations. We have factoring, and that's going to be in Chapter 9, okay? We've done graphing, which was the start of Chapter 10. And then the square root method, which we're doing now, which is 10 point, what was that? I think it's 10.4. Yeah, that's in lesson 10.4. Okay, I'm going to do this when there's no B term. And we will talk tomorrow about these. Okay, and that's it.